Welcome to Experts Unleashed, a podcast that aims to uncover how professionals and entrepreneurs transform their experience into income while making a positive impact in the world. I'm your host, Joel Erway, and over the past 4 years, I've helped entrepreneurs develop and launch their expert-based businesses to grow past 6 and 7 figures per year. Now, a professional expert serves their community through paid training, education, or service, and this podcast will show you how to design and execute your plan to become a 6 or 7 figure expert without a big team. So, let's get started. Hey, it's Joel Erway, and I am super excited for our first episode of Experts Unleashed. I just got off the interview with our first guest, Selena Soo. And man, you guys are in for a treat. Selena is a PR and publicity expert, and we talked about her journey for how she discovered how to turn her gift of connecting with people and this art of reaching out and making connections and turning it into a multiple 7-figure business fast. So pay attention to this interview. This episode is going to over-deliver, I promise. We talked about a lot of great things, including her Impacting Millions program, and you are just going to love Selena's episode. I can't wait for you to consume this content. So let's get right into it. Selena, welcome to the show. Welcome as our first guest.
Thank you for having me. I am so honored to be the first guest.
Yeah, so I've got a whole laundry list of questions. Obviously, Selena, we've met a bunch of times. We've worked together.
Yes.
We just came back from an event in New York City, so we've talked a bunch, and I know your story. But for those who haven't heard of Selena, who are you? What is your expertise, and what do you do?
Sure. So I'm a publicity and marketing strategist, and I help people who feel like hidden gems become household names. And my journey started, about a decade ago when I had a quarter life crisis, and I found myself at this women's life coaching group, and I was, devouring all these books from thought leaders like Deepak Chopra and Marianne Williamson, and then later got introduced to this amazing online world of experts and authors and coaches. And I knew that I wanted to be that person who helps these people become more visible and reach more people with their message. So that's what I do today. And I basically have my dream job, and it's been amazing.
So you help people become more visible and help them reach more people, right?
Yeah.
So that's the ultimate goal, right? So Take us back. So this started about 10 years ago. You had your quarter life crisis.
Yeah.
Right? What was going on at that point? So let's just start.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, I was working at a nonprofit at the time. I was making about $42,000 a year, and I was really hardworking, but I always felt like I never was good enough. A lot of it had to do with me and just being someone that got hurt very easily. And I also had this boss who had gone to Harvard Business School, and she just had really high standards of excellence. And I always, I felt like I wasn't good enough, but I did a good job at my work. And, I dreamed of doing something else one day. I didn't really know what. I didn't have, clear role models to follow. And so I decided, let me apply to business school because more options will open up to me. And all around the same time, I was, at this women's life coaching group, trying to figure out what to do with my life and, learning about these different entrepreneurs. And once you learn about one of them, you hear about their friends, and then you get exposed to this whole community. And I just felt like, I was just so depressed and feeling so lost. And even though things weren't even really that bad. And I know that a lot of people, feel like that at different points in their life, whether they feel like the relationship they're in sucks, or they're at a dead-end job, or they're dreaming of launching something entrepreneurial, but have no idea where to start. And I felt like people needed inspiration, not just, more information, but people who embodied some kind of message of possibility. And for me, I don't know, I just resonated and connected more with people and their stories. And I wanted other people to be exposed to them. So naturally I would just start, forwarding Ramit's emails. There was one email I probably sent to 37 people being like, you've got to read this email. It's so amazing. And meanwhile, my friends are probably like, what's the big deal? But I just got so excited about this world, and I wanted everyone else to know about them. And so that's really, how I got started. But at the time, I working at a nonprofit, I was like, okay, I really like helping people. I'm really good at helping people for free. I make introductions, I make connections, but wouldn't it be weird to charge for a connect? I don't know. I just didn't know if I had a monetizable skill set. I was just feeling kind of lost. But for me, business school was my next step.
I want to pause you real quick. So I want to go back. You said you hired a life coach because you had this crisis, right? You hired a life coach. What was this life coach supposed to be doing for you?
Well, it was a group program that I joined. It was called The Power of Right Now. And all I knew is that I just felt terrible. But, I didn't feel like seeing a therapist was the answer. It was more about I wanted to create like a future for myself where I felt more alive and excited. And there were just things that felt off, I guess, a lot of different things. I also wasn't in a great relationship either. So, at the time it was just very simple. Like, I just want to feel better because I feel like shit. And so that's why I went to see a life coach.
So was it inside that group where they said, hey, you should start to consider some entrepreneurial passions or maybe start your own business? Where did that spark come from?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it didn't come from there so much. That's when I got exposed to all these interesting people. And I thought, maybe I want to join a PR firm one day and work on, experts who I really believe in, or maybe I want to see if Tony Robbins has any positions at his company or, work for a place like that. But when I was in business school, I, had more time. And after a summer internship, I was walking home and I saw my, biggest, role model at the time, and still is in many ways, Ramit Sethi on the street. And I remember being on the phone with my mom and I was so excited. I was like, I gotta go. And I just hung up the phone and I kind of walked up to him and he was letting his parents into a cab. And I just started talking to him and he was kind of out of it. He didn't even have his contacts on. He couldn't even really see. And I was just an excited reader, wanting to connect with him. And I was not like his typical reader because at the time, this was a number of years ago, a lot of his readers were like guys like him, kind of dorky guys in their 20s. And, here I was like this really enthusiastic young woman. And so he was kind of curious. And we started talking because I had purchased his program, Earn 1K. I had read his book and he was like, I just got back from a cruise with my parents and two sisters. And I was like, oh yeah, I remember you have two sisters because, in chapter 7 on savings, you talk about how they had Indian weddings on both the East Coast and the West Coast. And he was like, oh my God, you're a stalker. And that's how our friendship began. So I started going to his local New York meetups. Derek Halpern, one of his good friends was at the meetup. And, I just started becoming friends with him and Derek. And one day, Ramit emailed me while I was in business school. And he was like, I'm redoing my website, was wondering if you had like a moment to just take a look at these different mock-ups. And I remember, being so excited about the opportunity to help. And I just shut down my computer. I was in class at the time. I left the classroom. I went to the library and I organized just a group of people. I was like, hey, can you take a look at this? Hey, can you take a look at this? And I spent 5 hours, doing market research and put together like pages of notes and sent it over to him. And he was really blown away. And as I would do things like that for him, he would be like, maybe you should be a copywriter one day, or you could do this. Or, he said to me at one point, like, honestly, because I was thinking like, at the time when I was in business school, do I work in HR or help with, women's initiatives, or I don't know, work inside another company? And he was like, honestly, like you could do anything. Like there's like, you really, have it in you to be an entrepreneur. And, there's more things that came from that and people I got connected to. But that was, I think, when my wheels really started turning, is when other people like Ramit saw the potential in me that at the time I couldn't see inside myself.
Okay, so now it's becoming a little bit more clear. Okay, so that's fascinating. I love that story, by the way. So, when you hired around the same time when you hired this life coach, you were kind of like you were searching for, like a lot of us do, right? I was going through the same thing probably about 5 or 6 years ago. You're searching for solutions. You're searching for options, and it's like, okay, so you're following guys like Ramit, and then you hired a life coach or that group coaching program,
right? And also worked with her privately afterwards, but started in the group coaching format.
Cool. So it was really Ramit's recommendation that said, hey, listen, like you should really become an entrepreneur. So it wasn't, correct me if I'm wrong, it wasn't up until that point, it wasn't really in your mindset to be like, oh, maybe I can go out and start something on my own, or you were just kind of waiting for somebody to say like, listen, I believe in you, like you can do it.
Exactly. At the time, I didn't think that I had the profile of an entrepreneur. Like I'm a naturally very shy person. I enjoy being behind the scenes. I enjoy supporting other people. And, and there's things I'm not good at. Like I'm not very good at, finance and numbers. So I thought like, okay, I can play this role behind the scenes, helping people kind of in this like kind of publicity promoter capacity. But I didn't think that I could be an entrepreneur. And the fact the idea of drawing attention to myself made me very uncomfortable. But then he started to see that potential in me. And I also, at the same time, as I mentioned, I had a summer internship and I was working with an entrepreneur. She was, incredible, very extroverted. She had built this multi-million-dollar media company, and I was helping her with her next venture. And I did both operations and business development and recruited several interns to work with us. And I did a lot of, really fun things for her and added a lot of value. And I'm like, wow, I'm basically doing this, And so it was, multiple experiences where I started to realize I could do this. The other thing is Ramit connected me to Marie Forleo, and she was looking for someone to help her with publicity. And Danielle LaPorte, who had wanted to introduce me to Marie years ago, also reconnected us. And so I talked to Marie, and she became really excited about my work, and she really believed in me. And I've helped her with some things and Danielle LaPorte with things over the years. And they just became my ambassadors. And it was surreal to me, because back then, and even today, I just have massive respect for them. I look up to them so much. I'm like, oh my gosh, if they're so excited about me and they see me as one of the best at what I do, then I really do have something here. So that's what gave me the confidence.
So at what point during this journey did it really stick with you that okay, cool, I think I've got something here with publicity and PR? I mean, did you always kind of know that you had a talent for connection?
Yeah, I think I knew just once, the people that I admired, like Marie, Danielle, and Ramit, were really enthusiastic about my work. But I'd always been, I can remember since maybe college as being this natural connector, being really good at reaching out and connecting people. And even in business school, I just found myself to be really entrepreneurial. I was really good at just getting, ideas off the ground quickly, making things happen, being extremely resourceful. And there were other areas where I just struggled so much. It was so painful, certain classes. So, there were certain things I'm just really not good at. And then there were certain things I just found that I was so good at just making things happen.
Mm-hmm. So along the lines of making things happen and being a connector, right?
Yeah.
It's opportunity is everywhere, and you just,
yes.
It would be really, really hard to think in my mind, if I'm going back, a few years ago, I'm like, oh, Joel, maybe you could be a connector and make money from just connecting people. Immediately in my mind, I'd be like, there's no way that would happen. But I love, so I did some research for this podcast.
Wow.
And I love the email that you set up a dinner with one of your idols, or one of your, with Pat Flynn.
Yeah.
Right? Tell the story about that, because so this is kind of, if I'm trying to piece this all together, when I read this, I'm like, wow, this is just this, there's a lot of value in just reaching out, just making that effort. So tell the story about how you connected with Pat Flynn of Smart Passive Income.
Yeah, I love telling this story because this is just kind of how I operate.
Yeah.
So, I was on Pat's newsletter. I really admired, his work. And then one day he said, I'm coming to New York City. He was saying this to, the hundreds of thousands of people on his list. I'm coming to New York City for a conference. I might have some time, to grab coffee with some readers. If you're interested in meeting up, let me know. And I thought, it's so exciting that Pat's coming to town, but I don't want to take his time. And who knows if he would even want to meet with me. But what if I could create a really special experience for him and organize an influencer dinner party in his honor? And so I reached out to Pat and I introduced myself to him. I think he was also a little bit familiar with me because I was also on my mentor Ramit Sethi's leaderboard and, things like that. But, he might have heard my name, but he didn't really know me. So I introduced myself. I said, since you're coming to town, I would love to organize a dinner party in your honor. I was thinking I can invite some of your friends, our mutual friends, like, Derek Halpern, Ramit Sethi, Kimra Luna, as well as anyone else you would like to meet. Let me know if you're interested.
Name dropping.
Yeah. But that's what you have to do. But it's not even it is what you have to do, but also that was what it was about. The point was I was going to create this experience. So you could hang out with his favorite people and meet new people. So I think it was definitely name dropping, but not superfluously. It was really, I think appropriate for the occasion.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. Yeah, so when I saw it, I'm like, wow, because nobody thinks to do that, right? And it's when you see opportunity, when anyone sees opportunity, one of the biggest ways to seize that opportunity is, okay, number one, figure out how are you going to do it that most people aren't willing to do. if you were to sit down, if I were to ask like 100 people who are in our space, like, oh, have you ever connected with Pat Flynn, or how would you go about connecting with Pat Flynn? Like, oh, there's no way I could connect with Pat Flynn unless I knew somebody, in his immediate circle. But then, we've got your email, which you posted up on your blog, that got, you say, hey, Pat, I just read you're going to be in New York. Would you like, I'm going to host a dinner party. You want to come? Like, it almost seems like it was that simple. Like, nobody's going to go out of their way and just invite Pat to a private dinner party, but it worked. And ironically, that's how we first met personally, when you invited me to your event in Las Vegas. Yeah, your influencer party in Vegas was slightly bigger than the dinner party, but yeah, I mean, it was just, it's all about
honestly,
asking.
this is like just how I kind of live my life. Like that story, I know that it sounds really unique, but that's kind of what I do all the time. I like do things like this every day. Oh, look, my little cat wants to say hello. So I have lots of stories like that, but like the main takeaway is don't wait for opportunities, create opportunities. And so I do think I have a knack for connecting the dots between people, ideas, and opportunities. And I think it's because I care so much about people. Like the people that I choose to help and develop relationships with are people that I just feel genuinely so excited about them, so inspired by them. And I want to make an impression. I want to develop a relationship. And, the only way to stand out is really to go above and beyond and do the kinds of things that nobody else will do. But my mind naturally goes to that place of, doing things in this kind of interesting, meaningful way.
So let's go back a little bit. So I want to rewind back to when you got endorsed by Ramit and the blessings by Ramit and Marie Forleo and Danielle LaPorte. Like, so now you're like, confidence is there. Like, if these super successful entrepreneurs and business people think that I can make it, like, okay, there's got to be something here. So now take us to the journey of like, because it's one thing to have the skill set of, okay, I'm a connector, but now you had to figure out, how are you going to really monetize it? Like, when was the first time that you actually sold this as a service or an offer, or like this ability to connect?
Well, I was in Laura Roeder's Creating Fame Facebook group. So I joined that right about the time that I had started my business. And there was somebody inside that Facebook group who just saw me commenting, and I had introduced myself and wanted to hire me. So that was the first time. I don't remember even what the dollar amount was, but I was just getting started. So that was my first client sometime in June. And then in August, I had my first kind of more traditional PR client. And that was $4,000 a month.
Okay. So the first person who hired you, was that just for PR, or what was it, a consultant?
Yeah, it was like marketing. It was, she was launching a book and she wanted to get my feedback on some different marketing ideas. So I guess, it does kind of fall into the PR category, and I was doing a little bit of outreach for her. It was like a whole combination of things.
Mm-hmm. So then 2 months later, you had your first traditional PR client. So how did that come about?
I was at an event and I bumped into this person who was an acquaintance of mine, and she asked me what I was up to. And I told her that I had this PR business, and she was excited to hire me. I think one of the reasons why she wanted to hire me is because she didn't want to work with a, big agency where she would be one of many. She wanted personal attention. So that's how I got started there.
Cool. So you said on her behalf, you're going to reach out and try and make some media connections, right?
Yeah. And she had a book coming out too.
Awesome. And so for $4,000 a month and one client, you basically replaced your salary at your...
Oh, yeah. Actually, I didn't think about it like that, but yes, I did.
Actually, more. I mean, that's more than what you're making. I mean, $42,000 a year. That's less than $4,000 a month. I mean,
it was more. Yeah, no, that's true. And then, so that was in August. And then in October, I did my first workshop, and it was a 2-day workshop. I promoted it on Facebook. I just, at the time, this was, about 6 years ago, we didn't really use, or I wasn't using Facebook ads. I just posted, I'm doing this workshop. And I had maybe 150 people on my email list that had come through a Forbes article I had written. And then also people just seeing like, oh, she's got a website, let me opt in. And so I marketed it to those people, and I got 7 people coming to the workshop. So at $600 each, I was making in 2 days more than the amount I was making working with a client for a month. And so, I had my first taste of what leveraged income could look like.
So $600 workshop, and you had 7 people show up.
Yes. Yeah. And the really exciting thing is I talked to a friend about this, and, in her eyes, she saw me as this huge deal, even though I was just getting started, because I had these endorsements from Marie and Danielle and all that. And she said, why just make it a 2-day workshop? Why don't you make it a 2-month program? And what you can do is just add 2 1-hour calls. And I was like, well, how would I lead these calls? And she was like, just do Q&A. And I was like, okay. So it was just 4 additional hours, approximately of my time. And then she was like, and then you can double the price to $1,200. And I was like, really? And so I just went ahead and I did that. And, I had my first $10,000 month when that happened. And then the next time I did it, I turned it into a 4-month program and I just doubled the price again. And I like sharing this story because I think a lot of, sometimes like entrepreneurs, they burn themselves out because they're creating so many different kinds of programs. And with this, I was just adding another layer that was very easy and, increasing my revenue that way.
That's awesome. So you land your first client through a Facebook group. Then you land your first 4,000. 2 months later, you land your first, one-on-one client, $4,000 a month, and just like that, you made more that month than you do in a month at your regular job. Then 2 months later, so you started growing your list. You had 150 people on your list, which isn't all that great, but you're able to turn that 150. Well, I mean, everyone's got to start somewhere.
Well, it's just getting started, and it wasn't my priority. And honestly, at the time, I was like, well, if I already have 1 client at $4,000 a month, if I have 2 clients, then I'll have a 6-figure business. So do I need, all these people on my list? And later I realized, I do want to grow the list, but it wasn't my priority at the time. It was definitely a small list.
Doing the math it's so crazy. Like, oh, I've got 1 client at $4K a month, and if I just have 1 more, I have a 6-figure business. And like so many people, when they think about this world of like building an expert-based business, they're like, okay, so many people who came through the webinar agency, they're like, oh, Joel, I've got this $500 course. I want that to be my 7-figure business. I'm like, do you realize how much effort that takes? Like, I'm not saying it's not possible. It's absolutely possible, but like, they just don't understand the amount of work that takes. And we've done a lot of them that have done 7 figures, but then you go, and it's like, oh, if I just get 2 clients at $4K a month, that's a 6-figure business right there. And that's more than what most people even like comprehend. So it's fascinating. So this is pretty much essentially what I teach all my students. Is like, you take your one-on-one clients and then you start to leverage that down, whether you do a workshop, coaching program. I mean, you literally went down the perfect expert model, which is what we teach. So you start high and then scale down.
I believe so strongly in that. So I always, started, I think that's been a big part of my success is early on, I just started working with these really, well-known high-end established personalities, initially just helping them out for free because I wanted to, but then it built my brand, and then their followers wanted to work with me. And then I would have them in, one-on-one coaching or like a mastermind. And then I built this reputation, and then the people that followed them wanted to work with me. And then I had, my next offer at a lower price point. So I've always started, at the higher price points and then moved my way down after I had more revenue from the one-on-one and masterminds to invest in these, more mass programs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. That's the way you go. That's absolutely the way to go. And, of course, you built up the credibility, and it didn't happen overnight. Like, I mean, you followed Ramit for a long time, and then you seized the opportunity. You saw him in New York City. Like, you saw him getting out of a cab or putting his parents in the cab. So you approached him, and that led to the connection with Marie Forleo and Danielle LaPorte. And then, just your enthusiasm and your passion, it spread to all 3 of them. They all supported you. So that all started to snowball. And so it doesn't happen overnight, but that is the way to go. Because now once you got the endorsements, I mean, you're gold for pretty much life. I mean, in terms of this field, you'll always have their endorsements. You'll always have their support. And that's a huge thing in terms of value and positioning. So now you've got this program called Impacting Millions. So now you've taken this and all of your experience, which just continue to build and build and build. And you're working with, you've done multiple launches now, and you've got tons of success stories and tons of students that are now having success just learning through your program. So let's talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So Impacting Millions was my 3rd online group program. Right before I launched that program, I've been running my mastermind. And so I've been testing a lot of the content with my mastermind clients during group calls and at retreats. And actually, when I decided to launch that program, I stopped my mastermind because I just wanted to give it my full focus and make it an amazing program. And I think, one of the reasons why it's been so successful is because it's different from what's out there in the marketplace. For example, my very first course was on getting clients. And while that did well, it's kind of difficult to, I don't know, be the number one program in the marketplace because everybody has a program on that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with Impacting Millions, not everyone can teach about how to get TV, in magazines and all of that. Maybe they can talk about guest posts, but not all the different types of publicity. And I had also hired different experts, people who had worked at the Today Show, people that write for Oprah Magazine, to look at my content, help me fine tune it, contribute to it. I paid them, for their support and helping me make it the best program ever. The other thing is, I teach the program live. At least I do right now. I've taught it live. This will be the third time teaching it live. And I always pay attention to the questions that come up during Q&A, and also all the questions that are posted in the Facebook group. And then I use that to fine tune the content to really strengthen it. So it definitely is my number one focus. And yeah, the other thing that is just so exciting about it is the results people get, because there's a lot of courses where people don't open up the program. And, that's the last thing that I want to happen with Impacting Millions. And so, there's a lot I do to really facilitate, people being really involved and engaged. So for this particular course, I do it live, but I find that when I show up, other people show up. And so the very first webinar we did, we had about 70% attendance rate for the live training. And that was interesting to me because I knew that there were people from all around the world. So
Mm-hmm.
that was interesting. But then with the second live webinar, it was maybe like 50%, and then it dropped down. And so learning that, I was like, wow, I want to put all the best stuff close to the beginning as possible. So, I learned that. And I also knew that some people just don't crack open their programs, but they are, hanging out and networking in the Facebook group. And so I took a lot of the big ideas I was teaching, all the lessons, and I made these mini posts, in the Facebook group, and got people to engage in that. So there are lots of things I did, and we would send them emails, with some of the content. So that kind of helped people consume the material, because everyone has a different, approach to learning.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So what are the core goals of somebody to go through Impacting Millions? If somebody were to sit on your webinar or to go through your launch right now,
Mm-hmm.
where are they currently, and where do you want them to be after they complete your program?
Yeah. So the people that are joining Impacting Millions are people who are experts, and they're good at what they do. They have, clients, customers, or maybe it's pro bono clients, whoever it is, who rave about their work, but they feel like they're this best kept secret. And while there's maybe 10 people or 20 people that are really excited about them, there's a whole world of people that they could help who really just have no idea who they are. And, meanwhile, they're seeing other people, their industry colleagues, or maybe a couple of years ahead, getting these big media opportunities, getting book deals, speaking on big stages, being invited to all these influencer events. And they're like, wait, I have something important to say, but I'm just not being noticed. I'm just being overlooked. And so Impacting Millions is about how to build their brand and get credibility through the power of publicity, but also use it as a platform to reach more people. Because, if you're on a podcast, there could be, thousands of people who are ideal clients for you listening to your message. Even if it's 500 ideal people, that's a really big deal. Other times, some of these publicity opportunities allow you to reach 100,000 or even 1 million people at once. And so, some of the most, the biggest people that we know are people, these household names have this, publicity behind their brand. People like Dr. Oz, Martha Beck, Gabby Bernstein. And so I wanted to teach other people how to do this for themselves.
That's awesome. Cool. Well, I'm a huge advocate. I've gone through your program. I've met you in person. I've learned from you at your live event in Vegas, and I know how much of how well connected you are, and the art of connecting with people, which is I don't want to say it's a lost art, but it is extremely valuable. People will get you further in life than anything in the world, and they'll get you further and faster. It's helped my business just being connected to the right people. And I pay a lot of money just for that exclusive right. I'll pay people tens of thousands of dollars just to be connected with them and be able to ping them, or just to get in their circle. And so it is extremely valuable to know how to do that. And I can't recommend your program enough. So
thank you. Yeah. The one thing I just want to leave with is, when we have our businesses, we're the ones kind of speaking to people one-on-one about, our services. We're trying to convince people that we're the best. But if there is someone else who is endorsing you, it makes you so much more credible. And rather than speaking to people one-on-one, you want to create leverage in your business. And there's different ways. Webinars are a way to create leverage, doing that kind of sales presentation to a group. And Publicity is kind of like this elevated form of content marketing where you're sharing some of your best ideas on these platforms. And there are people who are so excited about your message that they're willing to open up, their platforms of 10,000, 100,000, or 1 million people to you. So it is just such a valuable skill for you to have if you're really looking to reach a lot more people with your work.
100%. 100%. So Selena, where can people, so we're going to have a link to your opt-in and your launch that you've got coming up in March. It's going to be a huge success. I mean, I already know how much momentum you've got going towards it, just being at your event in Vegas. So I'm excited to be a part of it, but where else can they check you out? Where can they,
so they can go to my website, selenasoo.com, to learn more about me. And also they can opt into my 3-part video workshop on getting publicity. And also something fun that we're doing is once you opt in, after the first 3 videos, you'll have a chance to fill out a little questionnaire to show me that you have watched the videos, and you can win a trip to New York City. So all expenses paid. We'll get to hang out, and I'll mentor, whoever the winner is in the area of publicity, and also introduce them to some really cool people at a big influencer dinner party.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, your dinner parties. I'm going to make it a point to come to one of your dinner parties.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Yeah, it's on my hit list. I want everyone who's listening right now to go to selenasoo.com/blog, and you'll also find a lot of the topics that I brought up on here, which was the email that you sent Pat Flynn to hook up with him, and you get to see all sorts of influencers there in that photo. Is that Dan Meredith? Do I see him on there?
Yeah, he's there too. Dan Meredith, Ryan Lee, Ramit Sethi, Todd Herman. Yeah, a really great mix of people.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a great little sell sheet to check out for Selena. So Selena, I had a blast. Thank you for being our inaugural guest on the Experts Unleashed podcast. We talked about a ton, your entire journey and how you discovered your passion and how you discovered how to turn your expertise into leveraged income and just the journey of your entrepreneurial career. And I had a blast. Any parting thoughts?
No, I mean, this was amazing. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Awesome. Cool. Well, we'll wrap it up here, and I want to thank you for listening. We've got more episodes coming up, and be sure to go check out Selena's program, Impacting Millions. Huge advocate for it. I have gone through it, so I can personally vouch that it is gold star, platinum. I mean, I give it my highest recommendation. It's very, very, very powerful. So if you're looking to get your message out to millions, if you're looking to get publicity, PR, credibility, the whole 9 yards, Selena is the expert and the go-to expert to go to. So, Selena, thank you so much for being on our podcast, and everyone else, we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we look forward to giving you the next one. Now, if you want additional trainings and content outside of the podcast, I release exclusive video trainings on my Experts Unleashed YouTube channel. And if you'd like to come hang out with thousands of other fellow experts, join our Facebook group community where we do hangouts and webinars to help support you in your journey. Finally, if you'd like my personal help to develop, launch, or scale your business, contact me directly for private consulting opportunities to see if any spots are available. And you can find all of the information above at expertsunleashed.com.